My wife's big affair with her lover has been revealed." It was a shock. As I pulled into the driveway, Maddie started sobbing and sobbing next to me in the car. I had to stop halfway down the driveway. I didn't want to run over Balthazar's head. He was lying on his side and staring at me unblinkingly. It occurred to me that I had never seen his eyes before, for he was always looking down at baby Jesus. Maddie loved to decorate. Every holiday, for any excuse. I was embarrassed several times when I came home on my birthday or anniversary, and the yard was full of streamers and posters heralding the occasion to the world. Any occasion. Groundhog Day, St. Swithin's Day, Anglo-Saxon Bishop of Winchester, and later patron saint of Winchester Cathedral. If she could find the banners, Tuesday would be enough to want to celebrate. But Halloween and Christmas were her decorating nirvana. I couldn't park in the garage because of how much space her decorations took up. I didn't like it, but it was her thing and she was happy. Thus came the boxes of floor-to-ceiling decorations, most of which were Christmas decorations. Each year there were more and more of them. This year there was a life-sized creche with wise men, a donkey, and a sheep, with a glowing angel above the parents, hovering over the baby Jesus. From the roof came the greetings of Santa Claus, with his sleigh and 8 reindeer, and snowmen and elves frolicked on the lawn. On every tree and bush were ornaments and lights flashing in contrast to those on the eaves and around the windows of the house. And over the porch hung a large banner that read, "Merry Christmas." It all seemed a bit vulgar and excessive to me, but I realized that, first of all, my opinion didn't matter, and secondly, it wasn't even worth expressing it unless I was willing to endure an ice age for the rest of the day and all night. But like I said, Maddie loved it. She was proud of it, and her greatest accomplishment was not, as I thought, our wonderful children, but the time our house, or rather its decorations, made the front page of the neighborhood newspaper with penny karma. Each year she tried to do even better, hoping to repeat the accomplishment. But this year it won't happen, not the way she wanted it to. We'll probably be written about in the paper, but only as victims of mass vandalism. The Merry Christmas sign was torn down and seemingly stomped on. The creche appears to have been attacked with an axe. The decapitated Balthazar was the least of the damage done. The other figures were smashed beyond recognition, like Humpty Dumpty. The garlands on the house were torn off and piled on a bonfire started by the hands of Santa Claus. There was probably some roasted venison there, too, because there were no more reindeer to be seen. We lived at the end of a long and empty cul-de-sac with only 5 neighbors. We were at the very end of a winding street, but over the years our house became a must-see on Christmas lights tours. Our house, alone in the dark, appeared before the cars as they drove around the curve of the street on a dark night. The house shone in all the dazzling splendor Maddie had conjured up. People loved it. How did the jerks who did it find the time to do such utter destruction, and how did they know we wouldn't be home tonight? That's a question that would be hard for me to answer. It was obvious that the vandals had had plenty of time to practice their destruction. I became convinced of this when I saw that the ornaments on the trees had been shot up with balloons. With over 100 ornaments, it took some time, although I could tell from the number of balloons on the lawn and the mishit marks on the windows that they used automatic or rapid-fire pistols. I saw one piece of jewelry that they missed. Otherwise, the destruction was total. Maddie was kneeling by the creche while I called the police. Why did someone do this? Why did they do this to me?" I picked her up in my arms and carried her into the house, making her drop the remains of the baby Jesus she cradled to her chest. I sat her down with a cup of hot tea while we waited for the police. The police had the same questions I had. Considering how long the destruction took and the fact that the hooligans would have had to climb onto our roof to destroy Santa, how could they have guaranteed themselves enough time to do such total destruction? To begin with, who knew we wouldn't be home tonight? I explained that our daughters were away on a ski trip, and we were at my company's Christmas party in the ballroom of the Pierpont Hotel. It was a big event, but other than my co-workers and our daughters, I hadn't told anyone about our plans for the evening. The patrolman looked at my wife with the same question, but Maddie, still heartbroken, could only shake her head. The patrolman's partner returned after canvassing our neighbors and reported that a large van had been parked on our street for a long time that evening. On it hung a magnetic sign advertising a catering company, a company that provides catering services for various levels of events, from office lunch delivery to banquet catering, which further investigation revealed was fake. The neighbor who saw it thought we were getting ready for a party and didn't give it much thought. Neither the make of the van nor the license was memorized. The cop sympathized with us, but felt there was no evidence and he couldn't take any action other than filing a report in case we wanted to claim insurance. Before he left, the front windows lit up with flashes. It appeared that the local press had recorded the damage. Our house and Maddie's jewelry would once again grace the papers. The evening began so promisingly. Maddie was in a great mood, flirty and sexy as usual. For the past year, she and I had been at a standstill. Irritable and moody, I was like being married to a porcupine. Any attempt to touch her resulted in a sting. I couldn't figure out what I could have done, but something had thrown our relationship out of whack. Maddie was only 39 years old, but I thought she might be going through early menopause. Wanting to keep all my body parts intact, I fought the urge to ask her about it, but it remained my best guess. I decided to give her the space she might need to adjust to her changes. In June, when that space included her request to move into the guest room, I contained my anger and agreed to give her the bedroom. I felt her slipping away but tried to be patient and understanding. This weekend was off to a good start. Setting up all those decorations with a new full-size and expensive creche as this year's addition seemed to put Maddie in a great mood. My wife, that happy, flirty girl I was once married to, was back. As she prepared to party in my company, she even stopped and kissed me, a kiss that promised something more later that evening. She patted her eyelashes and suggested I move my toiletries back into the master bathroom. At the company party, Maddie danced like a 20-year-old, graceful, radiant with her beauty and the love she showed me. It stunned me. After a year of abuse, suddenly my loving wife was back in my arms. Loving me. Only me. I couldn't understand what had happened. It was like an emotional blow. After a whole year of disrespect, I was finally ready to move on. And now this mood swing. Maybe she was on hormone therapy or drugs. Maddie usually emptied the trash cans in the house, but in early October she'd gone out to buy a new fidget spinner when I noticed a full basket in the hall bathroom. I grabbed a garbage bag and went through the house emptying the garbage cans to save my wife the hassle. When I entered the master bathroom and emptied the trash can for the first time in almost 4 months, it was discovered that Maddie had not entered menopause. Upon inspecting the bathroom, I found round packs for birth control pills in her drawer near the sink. 3 packs, with 1 pill left in the top one. The prescription had been written the last week of January. I figured it must be the 3rd 3-month dose. 9 months of birth control. 9 months of her pushing me away. 5 months of her kicking me out of our bedroom. 9 months of patient understanding. 9 months of celibacy until my wife, who had always avoided birth control, suddenly found the need for it. 9 months. Well, at least it wasn't 9 months of pregnancy. How stupid of me. I pounded on the sink in anger and frustration. How could Maddie do this to me? I looked at myself in the mirror and forced myself to calm down. Was my wife really cheating on me? If so, why was she so angry at me if she was the one cheating on me? I needed to think things through. After I finished with the trash, I sat down at the computer. I had questions that needed answers. No. 1. Can a woman have her period during menopause? The answer is no. However, I found that menopause is diagnosed when a woman does not have a period for a full 12 months. So that is not the answer. She may be skipping months, which is similar to menopause, but not all the way through yet. But she could be what's called perimenopause. Gnome 2. Can birth control be used to regulate or mitigate menopause? Yes, birth control pills can help manage some of the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause, but they should not be used in place of hormone replacement therapy. So what's going on? Digging around on the internet, I found some information about perimenopause. After looking up the symptoms, I found many that fit. Mood changes. Check. She's never been this stupid before. Changes in sexual desire. Check, check, and check. Problems with concentration or memory. Not that I noticed. She remembered everything I'd ever done wrong. Headaches. Me. Not sure about her. Night sweats. Maybe that's why she kicked me out of bed. Maybe. Hot flashes. Just flashes of anger. Sleep problems. Maybe. Then again, maybe that's why she kicked me out of the bedroom. I wanted to scream. I just want answers, but the questions keep piling up. I decided that I'd bear with it a little longer, but now I'd pay attention. My wife has always been a homemaker since the kids were born. Now that they have gone to school and are quite independent, her time has been more or less free. Twice a week she would enlist the services of a housekeeper, and 2 or 3 times a week we took takeout, since the kids liked pizza and Mexican food, and Maddie and I liked Indian, Thai, and Chinese. Other days she cooked dinner. Except for Saturday, we had breakfast on our own and usually made our own lunches, so she had a lot of free time. The biggest and most time-consuming tasks she did by herself. Holiday decorations. Over the years, it became not only a serious investment of her time, but also a serious financial investment. Animatronics. Puppets in the form of people, animals, or other creatures controlled by an operator either manually or by remote control, dominated her Halloween displays, and Santa and his sleigh would buzz around for half the night before the timers shut them off. And that's not even to mention the flashing hearts on Valentine's Day, the bouncing bunnies at Easter, or the constant fireworks in lights that twinkled all June through the 4th of July. We lived at the secluded end of a long cul-de-sac. No one saw most of her shows except those who were aware and attended on Halloween or Christmas. I'll admit that for those 2 holidays she had her fans, but on other holidays we certainly didn't need any adjuster to help direct the crowds. But each year more and more decorations were added for each holiday. I don't mean to be vacuous. The point is that I realized how much free time my wife has now that the kids are grown. I started coming home at odd times during the day. Not too often. My job doesn't allow me to get away from the office very often. My presence is necessary. But I did get out often enough to realize that Maddie wasn't spending time at home. When asked, her porcupine needles would practically fly across the room at me with angry retorts. My random questions felt like an interrogation. Besides, she always had a reason for her absence. Almost always, her excuse was that she was on the lookout for new jewelry. That was too much for me. I needed help. I turned to a private investigator, figuring I could use our vacation fund since Maddie didn't seem to be in the mood for a vacation. If someone had been following her for, say, a week, I'd probably find out what was going on. But when I talked to a private investigation agency, they informed me that a stakeout would cost $150 an hour, and any additional costs, travel, parking, etc., would be added on. Considering I was leaving Maddie alone for at least 8 hours a day, that worked out to $1,200 a day and $6,000 for the week, Monday through Friday only. There was no way the vacation fund could keep up with that. I thought about asking a friend or neighbor to watch my wife for me. Thought about it for a full 60 seconds before I scrapped the idea. So first, there is the problem of finding a friend you trust who has the time to watch someone. All my friends who don't work are slackers. Great guys as friends, but definitely not the kind of people you'd hire, and I wouldn't trust them with their own wife, let alone mine. And the friends I would trust have jobs and can't waste their time keeping tabs on my wife in case she turns out to be a cheater. Neighbors pretty much fall into the same category. The only one who stays home all day is the old asshole from across the street. The ladies on the block stopped inviting him to barbecues after the blonde 4 houses down complained that he literally spit on her when she was in a bikini at a pool party. I've never seen anyone so disgusted when she wiped her breasts with a dry towel. There was no way I would have sicked him on my wife. Even I found him creepy, and I'm a guy. After all, I didn't need to watch her at all. A week before the Christmas party, Maddie's computer crashed. Somehow I knew it would be my fault because I bought it for her. But she was very nice to me, asking me to fix it. She was almost loving. When Maddie left for her gym, I agreed to take a look at it. It didn't take long to discover that a rootkit virus had destroyed several key boot track files. I banished the malware from the computer, restored the missing files, and the computer booted up immediately. Out of curiosity, I clicked on her email. I know Maddie and I know she doesn't have the patience to type in her name and password every time she wants to access her email. Of course, she opened it right away. The last emails were all I needed to make my heart break. "Please, please, don't do this," read the headline of the most recent email I received from Jimmy Love 69. The next 3 were also from Jimmy Love 69. "I love you. Don't leave me. You don't love him." And the oldest one, "What do you mean it's over?" I didn't even have to read the letters. I understood it all. She had left me, and now she was leaving her lover, Jimmy Love 69. She had someone new in line. Later, I thought I should have gone back even further and looked through her sent letters to see what she had said to Jimmy Love 69 and maybe find out who she had moved on to. But I was so depressed that I just shut down the computer. I loved my wife wholeheartedly. I had waited a whole year like a dumb cuckold, while she had had an unknown number of lovers. Was Jimmy the 1st, the 5th, or the 50th? Did I really care? I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't hold back the tears. What I could do was start planning my exit. Maddie didn't make it easy for me. I think I must have made my decision to leave clear because suddenly she was a concerned wife again. I ignored the hints of going back to our bedroom, citing an approaching illness. My excuses were the same as hers for being indisposed. But other than a disappointed look, she didn't insist that I return to her bed. And God knows, at this point I didn't care about squelching leftovers. When the police left, Maddie looked at me again and asked, "Why did someone do this to me?" I sipped my tea and, looking into my cup, asked carelessly in response, "Do you think Jimmy did it?" The quiet sobbing stopped, and when I looked up, Maddie was looking at me, eyes wide with fear. You know about Jimmy?" "Yeah, I do. He emailed me all about your big love." I contemplated the steam rising from my cup. "He wouldn't do that to me. He loved me." Maddie wiped her nose with her napkin, then began, "Honey, he was a mistake. I thought, it doesn't matter. A mistake. You thought you were in love, it doesn't matter." "It is what it is," I said sullenly. "But he really wasn't in love when he wrote to me about your big affair. And what did you do? Dumped him for some other guy?" "I told him it was over. I told him. So you crushed him, and he wanted to hurt you back. That's what broken-hearted people do. They get angry and hit you where it hurts." I got up and headed for the garage. "That's why I think Jimmy did it. I guess in a way he thinks he's going to get you back." "Where are you going?" "Jimmy and we're done. It's over. I promise." Maddie jumped up and grabbed my arm, holding me in place. I shook her off and continued on to the garage. "Yeah, it's over. It's over between us. For a whole year you've treated me like garbage, and why? So you could have sex with Jimmy. Well, he can have you." No, I love you. This was all a mistake. Last New Year's Eve, I saw you kissing Melinda. I saw her rubbing up against you, and I was so angry, so sure you were having sex with her." She fell to her knees. "I only went out with Jimmy to pay you back. And then last week I ran into Melinda, and she apologized to me. She said she attacked you, but you pushed her away. She said she was drunk and didn't realize it was you. She couldn't catch her breath because she was sobbing. I opened the garage door and started carrying the packed suitcases that were next to her jewelry boxes into my car. I didn't know. As soon as I found out, I broke up with Jimmy. It was all a mistake. Please, you could have talked to me, you could have asked me. But I didn't. Your answer was cheating. Was Jimmy the only one, or was he the 50th? I loaded the suitcases into the trunk. Don't answer that, I don't care. Our marriage is like your Christmas ornaments, destroyed, shredded, destroyed. As an argument for me to stay, she screamed that she loved me. I pulled out of the driveway, wiggling slightly to run over the head I'd moved out of the way as we drove home. Bye-bye, Balthazar. As I drove out of my neighborhood, I thought about how all it had cost me was the cost of the mags on the van and $500 for 2 Crosman ST-1 automatic air pistols. 2 punks from the basketball court were happy to destroy the nativity scene in exchange for 2 guns. They used the ladder I had left to reach Santa on the roof, and after they were done, they stowed it away in the shed. I was a little concerned about the balloons hitting my windows, but my half of the insurance claim was worth the extra damage. I never would have gotten half the value of that damn creche in my divorce if it hadn't been destroyed. I should have had them pull the Halloween junk out of the garage and destroy it too, but that would have been too much. And Jimmy Love, 69? Sure, he never wrote me. But I know Maddie. She won't listen to his rebuttals, so he won't be crawling at her feet again. I figured divorcing her might end up with him in her bed and me paying for it. Well, maybe I'll pay alimony and she'll probably have other lovers, but it won't be this asshole. I didn't buy Maddie a Christmas present this year, and I wasn't going to. I think my Christmas surprise was enough. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.